the asphalt unspooled under Adam Rourke's headlights, like an endless strip of worn tape. Its edges dissolved into darkness the farther he drove. Route 66 had always carried whispers of ghosts and forgotten towns. But tonight, it felt like the road itself was trying to lull him into a trance. Mile after mile, nothing but desert wind and old telephone poles, leaning like tired sentinels. His eyes burned from exhaustion. He'd been driving since dawn, chasing a deadline, or maybe chasing escape. He wasn't sure anymore. When his vision doubled for a second, he knew he had to pull over or risk becoming another roadside story. Then he saw it. A flicker of red and blue neon bending through the haze ahead. A sign. A motel. Finally. Relief washed over him, so strong, he almost laughed. The sign read, Sunset Haven Motor Lodge. Its tubes hummed. Old, tired lights spilling across cracked pavement. The building looked like a postcard from the 1950s. Mint green trim, curved edges, and a gravel lot filled with cars that gleamed like chrome ghosts under neon. No modern vehicles. None. Adam parked beside a powder blue Chevy Bel Air. And just sat there. Something about this place felt paused, as though time itself had stopped to catch its breath. But exhaustion won. He stepped out. The vacancy sign buzzed above him like a trapped insect. Inside, the lobby waited. Perfectly still. Floral wallpaper faded with years. A rotary phone. A cigarette machine. A brass bell. All untouched. Behind the desk sat a man. White shirt. Narrow tie. Hair slicked back with precision that didn't belong to this century. Evenin', the clerk said softly. Long drive? Adam nodded. Yeah. Got any rooms left? The man slid forward a brass key, its red fob catching the light. Room 13, he said with that grin. That didn't quite touch his eyes. In the corner, a couple SAT. The woman wore a polka dot dress and cat-eye glasses. The man beside her, a fedora pulled low. They watched Adam, silently, their eyes following him as if he didn't belong here. Room 13 waited at the far end of the lot, past a flickering lamp that buzzed like an electrical insect. The number, hand-painted, worn. The door, oddly narrow, as though the wall had swallowed it slightly. He hesitated. Not sure why, then turned the key. Cold, stale air slid out like a sigh from the past. The room was a museum of mid-century life. Boxy furniture, dull browns, faded carpet, and a small television, trembling with static. He rubbed his face, dropped his shoes, fell onto the bed. From somewhere far away, music floated. Glenn Miller, a ghostly rhythm from a world half remembered. He awoke to tapping, slow, rhythmic. The sound came from behind the bed. He sat up, heart pounding. The room felt colder now. The air, too still. The tapping stopped. Then, footsteps. A shuffle outside his door. Adam crept to the peephole, but the glass was fogged from the inside. No. When he opened the door, nothing. Only neon humming in the dark. But something had changed. The cars in the lot. Older now. Pre-1950s. White wall tires flashing like teeth in the neon light. A sick dread swelled in his chest. He turned, ran back into the room, and froze. It wasn't the same room. Different wallpaper. Different bedspread. The TV. Gone. A crackling radio in its place. Everything looked older. By 10, maybe 20 years. The room had shifted. Or slipped. Adam stumbled into the night, knocking on the next door. It opened, and the man in the fedora stood there. Pale now. Skin wax-like. Eyes almost black. Is everything okay? Adam stammered. The man tilted his head, slowly, studying him. You're not supposed to be here. Yet. And with that, the door clicked shut. No. He ran for the office. Through the window, the desk lay empty. The phone off the hook, slowly swaying. On the wall, a calendar. 1947. Panic clawed at him. He sprinted toward room 13, but the doors went from 12, straight to 14. 13 was gone. Where the door had been. Only a blank wall. Paint newer, the shape beneath like a scar. He pressed his palm to it. It was cold, unnaturally so. Metallic. Then comes the tapping again. Slow, methodical, and a whisper from behind the wall. Let me out. The voice. No, it was his. He backed away, choking on his breath. The air hummed as the motel seemed to fold around him. Footsteps echoed down the walkway. Every door opened, and the guests stepped out, their bodies frozen, eyes hollow, clothes from decades that shouldn't coexist. All staring at him. Adam stumbled toward the lot, but the cars, no. Ruins, rust-eaten shells, half buried in gravel. His car, gone. A hand touched his shoulder. He spun. The clerk stood there. You were tired, the man said softly. You stopped here? Everyone stops here, eventually. Reality flickered, melting. The neon bled colors like film burning in the projector. When the light steadied, Adam was standing behind the desk, a crisp white shirt, a brass key in his hand. Number 13. Ah, the front door opened. A tired traveler stepped inside. Adam smiled the practiced smile. Evening. Long drive? The loop continued. Forever. I never wanted the graveyard shift at Dusty Palms Motel. It was supposed to be an easy job. Just me, a flickering neon sign, and the empty stretch of Route 66. But the quiet out there has a way of getting inside your skull. It makes you hear things that might not be real. The lobby always smelled like old carpet and cigarette smoke, even though smoking indoors had been banned for decades. Every time I walked in, I felt like the walls themselves had absorbed the stories of every drifter who'd ever stayed there. It was late September, hot, dry wind outside, humming through the gaps around the front door. My shift started at 11 p.m., and like always, I checked the CCTV screens first. 6 grainy feeds, all glitching in and out. Typical. I leaned back, popped open an energy drink, and waited for the hours to crawl by. That's when I heard it. An engine. Not unusual on Route 66, but this one didn't fade. It kept idling. I stepped outside. A car had pulled up. Dark, long, maybe 70s or 80s model. Hard to tell under the buzzing neon. The engine kept running, rumbling low like a growl. I waited for someone to get out. No one did. After 30 seconds, I went back inside. People fall asleep in running cars, sure, but something about this one made my ribs tighten. For another minute, the engine kept vibrating the front windows. Finally, I checked the CCTV angle pointed at the lot. The car was there, headlights on, driver totally still. But the windshield glare hid their face. I told myself I'd give it 5 more minutes before knocking on the window. I sat back down and tried to ignore the sound. Tried focusing on the lobby clock's uneven ticking. 1 second. Fast. 1 slow. Like it couldn't make up its mind. When I glanced at the CCTV again, Something made my stomach fold backward. On camera 1, the feed of the lobby, I saw myself sitting there at the desk, and behind me, a figure. It was standing just inside the doorway to the back office, shape of a person, but blurred like motion smeared across a long exposure photo. I spun in my chair. Nothing. The only sound was the AC rattling weakly from the wall. My pulse hammered in my ears. I turned back to the screen. The figure was gone. I checked the feed twice, 3 times, scrubbing back, watching my own startled reaction in the grainy footage. But the figure didn't reappear. I slammed the desk drawer closed just to feel something solid. Old wiring, I whispered to myself, though even I didn't buy it. Then the engine outside sputtered once, twice, and continued idling, like it was laughing. I don't know why I didn't just call the manager. Maybe I wanted to prove I wasn't scared. Maybe I was scared and too embarrassed to admit it. 5 more minutes passed. No door opened. No headlights switched off. I finally grabbed the motel's cheap metal flashlight and stepped out into the warm night air. The desert wind pushed at me, carrying dust and that strange dry smell right before a storm. I approached the driver's side slowly, tapping the glass with my knuckle. "Sir, you okay?" No movement, just the radio hissing quietly. Not music, static. I leaned closer, trying to angle the flashlight under the glare. What I saw made my throat clamp shut. There was someone in the driver's seat, but their head was tilted far too low, chin touching their chest like they'd been staring at something in their lap for hours. I stepped back. Hard. Something about this was wrong. Too wrong. I rushed inside and checked the CCTV lot feed again. My stomach dropped. In the camera's perspective, the driver's head was up, facing forward, facing the motel office. I turned toward the door instinctively, felt the heat rise in the back of my skull. No one was there. No footsteps. No door opening. I whipped back to the camera. My breathing got fast, too fast. I pressed my palms onto the counter to steady myself. That's when I noticed something else on the monitors. Camera 3 showed the second-floor walkway, the one with the broken railing, the one no one used after dark. But someone was standing there, a silhouette as still as wet paint. I leaned in. The figure didn't move, didn't sway, didn't breathe. And then, on the screen, the silhouette tilted its head. Not toward the camera, toward me. I stumbled backward, knocking over the stapler. The clatter felt stupidly loud. The walkie-talkie on my hip crackled suddenly, a burst of static. Then something that sounded like words, not clear, not English, not human. "Who is this?" I asked, voice cracking. More static, a dragging sound, like metal scraping concrete. Then, a voice whispering my name. I dropped the walkie and backed away until my spine hit the wall. The desert wind outside rose sharply, making the front windows shake against their brittle frames. I glanced at the car again through the door. The headlights suddenly cut out. No fade, no stutter, just darkness. I felt the air shift, heavy, pressing. Then CCTV camera 1 flickered. The lobby feed distorted into a smear of shapes and static warps. And in the distortion, the figure from before was back, standing directly behind my chair. Except I wasn't sitting there now. The feed was showing the past, or something else. The figure lifted its arms slowly, like a marionette pulled by fraying strings. I turned around again. My heart lunged into my throat. Empty. But the air behind me felt occupied. I stepped toward the hallway that led to the supply closet, flashlight in hand. As soon as I crossed the threshold, the lights in the office snapped off. Everyone. I froze, barely breathing. In the dark, the neon sign from outside cast faint red through the blinds. In that dim light, I saw a shape move in the lobby. Tall, bent, too thin in the limbs. It stood completely silent. I raised the flashlight with a shaking hand, clicked it on. Nothing there. My brain felt like it was slipping sideways. I stumbled back to the desk, fumbling for the landline. The CCTV feeds flickered violently. Every camera, every angle, every hallway showed the same figure. Closer in each feed. Closer. Closer. I tried dialing 911, but the phone only played that same static from the car radio. Whispering, breathing, saying my name again and again in a voice that was almost mine. I backed toward the front doors. Then the engine outside roared back to life, loud, aggressive. I whipped around. The car lights blasted on, flooding the office in blinding white. And in the car's headlights, right there in the doorway, the figure stood. Its head hung unnaturally low. Then it snapped up. I don't remember much after that. Just the sensation of falling, like the ground slipped out from under me, like gravity had been rewired. When I opened my eyes, the sun was rising. The car was gone. No tire marks, no oil stains, no sign it had ever been there. The CCTV feed was looping a no signal message, and the manager was pounding on the glass, asking why the doors were locked. I didn't tell him. I quit that morning. But sometimes, when I pass the old motel on the way to class, I swear I still hear that engine idling behind me, like it's waiting for me. I first heard the story from Ruth and Walter Cray, the elderly couple who ran the Sunseer Motel on the edge of Route 66. They were the kind of people who looked like the desert had carved them out of itself. Thin, wind-bitten, faces creased like cracked earth. They had one rule. They repeated it often, in the exact same trembling rhythm, like a prayer or a threat. When the sandstorm starts, you lock the doors. You don't answer knocks. You don't open for voices. Dust carries things that want a face. They never smiled when they said it, and they always looked toward the desert as if waiting for something to move, something that shouldn't. That night, 4 teenagers rolled in, a sunburned group drifting down Route 66 in a dented van, carrying the indestructible confidence of youth. They laughed too loud, dropped their bags too hard, didn't listen to the Cray's warnings. Their arrival disturbed the motel's stillness, like stones thrown into stagnant water. Walter eyed them the way some folks watch a rattlesnake cross their porch, wary, angry, afraid. When he told them the rule, they snickered. One girl actually wrote it down, mocking it like it was campfire myth. Don't open the door for the dust. Ruth pulled me aside. Storm's coming tonight, she whispered. A bad one. Her eyes were milky with fear, not age. They should stay in their rooms. You too. By sundown, the wind shifted. It didn't howl like normal. It scraped, like fingernails across sheet metal. Sand began rolling across the parking lot in thin, crawling fingers. The sky dimmed to a bruised red, and the neon motel sign flickered like it was suffocating. I helped Walter drag chains across the front door and latch the storm shutters. His hand shook badly. It remembers voices, he muttered. It imitates what it hears. The first full gust hit like a freight train, rattling every wall of the Sunseer Motel. Sand poured through any crack it could find, under doors, around windows, through the ancient vents. The air smelled metallic, old, like something unearthed. Around 10 p.m., the knocking started. Soft at first, then more frantic. It came from the teenagers' end of the hall. 3 knocks. A pause. Then a voice. Hey, guys, let me in. It's freezing out here. The problem was, every teenager was already inside. I saw their shadows under their doors, but I also saw another shadow. Long, thin, bending at angles that didn't make sense. One of the boys, red hoodie, stupid sense of invincibility, cracked open his door. Just an inch, just enough. Something pushed back, not violently, but eagerly. I slammed it shut and clicked the deadbolt. He cursed and shoved me away. But when he saw the thing's shadow retreating down the hall, stretching too far, stretching wrong, he went quiet. The knocking didn't stop. It multiplied. Doors on the far end of the motel began shaking as voices called out, sometimes crying, sometimes laughing, sometimes begging. Some voices were strangers. Some sounded like the teens' own parents. Ruth kept whispering prayers under her breath. Walter loaded an old shotgun with trembling hands he had no intention of using. "Bullets won't do nothing," he said. "But they make a man feel braver." Down the hallway, the red hoodie kid broke. The voices outside his door shifted into something familiar. A girl's voice. Soft. Afraid. "Please let me in. You forgot me out here. Please." His ex-girlfriend. The one who left him last year. He moved fast. Too fast. I grabbed his arm, but he tore free and unlocked the door. The sandstorm roared inward in a violent blush of red dust. And through it stepped a shape wearing his ex's silhouette like a poorly fitted costume. Its eyes glowed like twin grains of burning ember. Its mouth stretched too wide. And when it opened, nothing came out. Only sand. He screamed. It lunged. He wasn't the first to die that night. But he was the loudest. Chaos swallowed the hallway. Sand poured like water. Figures pushed through the storm shutters, squeezing into the motel through cracks no body should fit through. They walked like puppets made of dust, jerky, weightless, hollow. 3 teens ran. One girl tried smashing a window to escape, only to be pulled halfway through it by clawing hands made of swirling grit. Her scream was strangled by the wind. Another boy hid in a linen closet. We heard the knocking stop, then his voice calling for help. Except he was still inside with us, trembling. The voice outside wasn't his. He fainted when the thing outside began repeating his words exactly, syllable by syllable, like a broken radio replaying him. The sandstorm outside seemed almost alive, shifting, pulsing, pushing against the walls. It wanted in. It wanted all of us. Ruth and Walter led the remaining teens and me into the basement, an old storm shelter from the motel's glory days. We barricaded the door with furniture, sandbags, and Walter's shaking arms. Above us, footsteps dragged through the hall, slow, curious, searching. Then came the knock. 3 taps, a pause, 3 the same, like they were learning, practicing, wanting us to answer. One of the teen girls broke down, sobbing. The storm outside answered her with perfect imitation. Her own voice, crying, pleading. "Please, please let me in." Walter covered her ears. "Don't listen," he said. "The dust tries on voices until one fits." Hours passed, or minutes. Time in the dark stretches strangely. Then suddenly, silence. The storm above faded like someone had closed a door on the world. Ruth opened the hatch just a crack. Dawn, clear sky, nothing human remaining in the hallway. We emerged slow, half expecting something to pounce. Nothing did. But the motel was ruined. Sand inches deep, doors cracked, furniture warped by wind pressure. Of the teenagers, only 2 survived. Walter stared at the dune-swallowed parking lot. "Storm will come again," he murmured. "Next year, maybe tomorrow. Doesn't matter. It always returns for new voices to wear." I didn't stay. I couldn't. The surviving teens hitched rides out of state. The Crays stayed behind. They always stayed. Said someone had to guard the doors. 3 weeks later, at home, a dust storm swept through my neighborhood. It rattled my windows the same way, scraped at them. At 2 a.m., someone knocked. Soft. Familiar. My mother's voice called through the door. She'd been dead for years. I sat frozen, gripping my phone with shaking hands. Then came the whisper through the crack beneath the door. My own voice. "Let me in." I didn't open it. I never will. And if you ever hear knocking during a sandstorm, you shouldn't either. No matter whose voice calls your name,